Hello and welcome back to the Two Nerds Rant podcast, the super interesting podcast that a lot of people listen to.
Or did.
In honor of Infinity War coming out next week, we decided to do something kind of big that we've been wanting to do for a while. We're going to review the Marvel Cinematic Universe in its entirety from the beginning all the way up until Infinity War. We are going to be only looking at the movies, so we're not going to be looking at the TV shows, any of the animated shows, or any of those random weird doodads that are technically MCU. We're just going to be looking at like the theatrical releases of things.
So no one-shot stuff like that?
Yeah, no one-shots, no Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., no Netflix shows, all that shit.
We'll get to Netflix another day.
We'll do that another day. For the sake of linearity, we're just going to be doing the movies for this video. I guess that's all there is to say about the beginning. So if you want to get into the beginning, starting with Phase 1, big old Iron Man. May 2nd, 2008. Fuck, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, dude, 10 years.
10 years ago.
10 years.
I still remember going to see that.
You did. I never did. I never saw it in theaters.
I remember seeing it in theaters. My dad and my friend in San Diego. I still remember the theater. And it was the same theater that we saw Tom DeLonge get out of his minivan in the parking lot in.
That sounds rad.
Fun fact about my time in San Diego.
Good times. Blink-182, everybody.
Different day though. So it wasn't Iron Man day. But Iron Man,
Setting
this
the
is still,
stage.
in my opinion, it's still the best movie in the MCU. There's still nothing that's past it.
Because it just set the bar. Everything about Iron Man, it was the make or break moment. You know, Robert Downey Jr. showed up out of nowhere. He was a B-list actor at the time. He was not the absolute superstar that we all know him now 10 years later.
Yeah, he wasn't a nobody.
No, he was a B-list for sure.
Yeah, he was B-list.
Mm-hmm. He was known, but not to the point where it's like people are like, "Oh my gosh, it's Tony Stark."
Same with Iron Man. I mean,
exactly.
No one gave a shit about Iron Man in the mid to late 2000s.
He was actually Marvel was doing terrible. Marvel actually, like, Iron Man was one of the most unrecognizable characters out of all of Marvel.
Yeah.
Like, the
to
big
put
ones
this
were
into
Spider-Man.
perspective, at the time that Iron Man came out, the most recent Marvel movies had been Spider-Man 3 and X-Men 3. Which are both garbage.
Yep. And in terms of those are the comics that were doing well.
Yeah. And to add insult to injury, this is the same year that The Dark Knight came out and raised the standards for every comic book movie.
Good old Dark Knight. But it's like...
Go on.
The thing with Iron Man was just like... We've said it before, and it was just like... It had so much to prove, and there was so much on its plate. Where even if... But at the same time, like, I saw an interview on it now, and they were saying, like... They were stoked on it no matter what. They didn't really plan on having it be as big as it was. They just wanted to make a movie that they enjoyed. So that's what they did, Jon Favreau and all of them. And with it, they were able to they made something completely magical.
Yeah.
And with it, it just set the freaking pillar that was Iron Man in terms of the Avengers. It's like you had, like, even to today's standards, like, the CGI of that suit from 10 years ago can look so much better than some of the stuff we're getting in movies today.
Yeah, honestly, I still think the first Iron Man has some of the best special effects of, like, the entire MCU. It looks more raw. It does, like, it's not trying to look flashy. It's just trying to look believable.
It's trying to look the fact like maybe this could happen to some point in the future.
Yeah, it's a different style. And I think that's also part of the reason why I love that movie so much is because, like, it wasn't flashy. It wasn't anything special. It was, like, and everything in that movie, everything that Iron Man does is grounded in some kind of reality. Everything that happens, like, is grounded in reality. There's nothing extravagant. There's nothing over the top.
And even
I would even go as far to say, like, it's more grounded than even something like The Dark Knight. Because, like, The Dark Knight, everything is in reality, but you still have those, like, comically insane, over-the-top insane
villains.
Caricatures. You still have the fact that Batman can disappear like a fucking ninja at will. But with Iron Man, it's like everything he does is justified in the movie. and you
even
can
like the
see
most,
him putting together the suit,
and
and
it's like,
like every ability that Iron Man has in that movie is literally like explained to you why it exists, and that's part of what makes it feel more real. Like the opening half hour of the movie is like terrorism and torture, and it's like, this is real. This is not a comic world. This is the real world.
exactly. And it's like, and on top of that, like the most outlandish things being like in his character is like those parties that he throws, and the fact that he's as big as he is. It's like even then those don't even feel nearly as big as what like fan events are in reality right now.
Yeah.
So it's like even then that was probably one of the best Stan Lee cameos in all of time, and that was him thinking that he was Hugh Hefner. It made my heart so happy. Looking good, Hef. Turns around at Stan Lee in a freaking robe of Hugh Hefner's. I was like, that's awesome. But yeah, it was just like it.
I still think nothing has passed Iron Man, and you know, you can take that as a really high recommendation of Iron Man, or you can take that as kind of a low balling of the MCU. But I still don't think anything has passed Iron Man.
It's like the only thing that even could come close, we'll get to in a few minutes.
We'll get to it.
There are some films that get pretty close, but like I said, it was the make or break moment. It was like, for those who don't know, it was Iron Man came from a big, huge loan from Bank of America.
Like, the only reason that movie even came out was like a Hail Mary business attempt.
Bank was like, okay, we'll front you the money and see what happens. They never expected it to be as big as it was, let alone the idea of, hey, you know that movie that comes out, like, what was it, 2 months later was Hulk? A month later, something like that? Like, Hulk was right around the corner.
Later.
Yeah, it was right around the corner.
A month and a week.
It's like, no one saw that coming in terms of that movie, with the ending of like, oh yeah, I'm putting together a team. Wait a second. Like, Hulk movies always get bad raps, but it's like, but when that happened, everyone kind of was like, they dropped the thing. They're like, so the movie that came out
even
last
at the end
month,
of the
first one,
even at the end of Iron Man too.
Yeah, you had Fury show up, but like no one expected them to have that in such a rapid succession. It was a month in between. That was unheard of.
Yeah.
It's like, and it was just, everything about Iron Man was just, it spit creativity, it spat realism, grittiness, even amidst, flying suits. Still perfect.
Yeah. That's one aspect that I feel like never really stuck with the MCU that I wish it did. I just wish the MCU felt more real, like Iron Man did. Like, I wish, like, part of the reason why Iron Man feels so real is because, like, it's terrorism. It's Middle East terrorism. It's like,
they never even said, like,
violence. Yeah, people are dying.
And even then, they never really said like where he was supposed to be. It was just like he was out in that area. You never really was like, it's in this country, so it was never really able to like purposely attack somebody. But it's like they used a certain dialect. What was it?
Yeah, it's just, but like that's the thing though. It was like real conflicts. The end, like the bad guy was not some like super villain. He was like
his best friend,
like a war hungry, like power hungry, like just warmonger who his life was business, and like everything felt more real. And like immediately after the first Iron Man, the MCU became superhero versus supervillain instead of superhero versus the real world, and I feel like that's something that the MCU lost. It feels weird to even say they lost it because they never had it. It was just one movie.
Yeah, and even then it was like in that moment, in that idea too, it wasn't even like he had a villain. It was Tony Stark versus himself in Iron Man, and that was just such a poetic thing if you think about it. Like the first scene when he's sitting there and like he gets attacked, he's like, oh my gosh, and the thing lands right next to him. When he looks at it and it just says Stark Industries, he goes, oh crap.
That's such a good moment too.
Robert Downey Jr. killing it from day one, killing it in the MCU.
I used to want that phone he had, like the flip phone that so like flips horizontally from a vertical phone. It's so stupid, but I wanted it after seeing that movie.
Please no gang signs. No, put it up.
Yeah, honestly, Iron Man, I feel like that's just, nothing has passed that, and I doubt anything will. Honestly,
they have it would
it's
take
gotten
like
too big.
And even then, it would take like another like a rebrand like they did with Ragnarok. It would take like that kind of move to kind of rebrand it. but it wouldn't happen.
We'll get into
We'll get there. We'll get there
because we have very differing opinions on that movie.
And that's when TNR is going to shine very, very well. So Hulk.
That was May of 2008.
Mm-hmm. Moving forward.
Great movie. And then June of 2008, we had a piece of shit called The Incredible Hulk. That I am still shocked has not been retconned out of the MCU somehow, because it has nothing to do with anything.
None of the characters carried over except for Ross, which took, 8 years for Ross to reappear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Ross didn't show up again until Civil War.
Mm-hmm. And everyone kind of lost it when Ross showed up in Civil War, and he was the one with the Sokovia Accords. Again, jumping the gun, but still connecting the dots because MCU. Truthfully, it's like Edward Norton. He was good in the movie. CGI wasn't. The CGI.
He was fine.
Yeah,
it's just his writing was horrible.
Yeah,
everyone's writing was horrible.
Yeah, they didn't really know how to do that well. They kind of took like an entire season of the OG Incredible Hulk show where Lou Ferrigno was the Hulk, and mixed it together with just bad ideas and terrible writing.
Yeah. Because that being said, the final 35 minutes of this movie is great.
Because they finally let Hulk do it.
Just the fight with Hulk and Abomination that's a great fight.
Mm-hmm. Because
the fact that you have to sit 2 hours to get that is so bad.
And it's like the CGI it was far better than what was it, the Ang Lee Hulk, where he just looked like the Blob with pants.
A blob with pants.
I kind of
Incredible Hulk. It's a piece of shit. If you want to get the full experience of this movie, just look at a piece of shit and then watch the ending fight scene on YouTube, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all this movie is good for. Don't watch the full movie. Just watch the ending fight scene. That's all you really need to know about it.
Even then, like you said, you can totally retcon this out of the MCU, and it won't even hurt you. The only thing you have to know about is Ross and what makes Bruce Banner into the Hulk. That's it.
Yeah,
nothing else carried over.
I have no idea how they haven't retconned this yet.
Like nothing else carried over.
Especially since Bruce Banner in this movie is nothing like he is in the other movies.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in this movie is wrong.
Yeah. Then fast forward, because some movies we're going to linger on, some movies we aren't going to linger on. We're not.
Yeah, there's just not a whole lot to say about some of these.
Yeah, it's like we'll try though. It's like we'll give props where props are needed.
As much as we love the MCU, there's a lot of stinkers in here.
But at the same time, it's not to say that, obviously their formula is working, and I'm a huge Marvel fan. I'm not saying I'm not. But, kind of taking an outward looking in. What was it? Then
there was a 2-year gap
between
2. Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 2. May of 2010, Iron Man 2. Yeah. Which is Iron Man 1, but not as good.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Let's see. The big changes were Terrence Howard was out. Don Cheadle was in, which made me sad because I love Terrence Howard as Rhodey.
Yeah.
Hammer Industries appears, and he was great. I loved
Hammer Industries.
He was funny. He made me laugh. Andy Serkis. No, not Andy Serkis. What's his name? Freaking
Mickey Rourke.
Rourke. That's what his name.
Yeah.
What's this? But what was the actor's name? Was that Mickey Rourke? Right? Yeah.
Mickey Rourke. Right?
I don't know.
Hang on. Let me look at this. Yeah, Mickey Rourke.
That's his name.
Whiplash.
Yep. Because as I say, I'm trying to think of what was his actual character name, and I'm like, that sounds like a comic book character because it does.
Yeah, no, Whiplash. Yeah. But made me doubt myself.
But what was his actual outside of the quote unquote villain name? What was his actual name in the movie? Mickey Rourke's character.
I don't remember.
Exactly.
Just point taken.
It's like Mickey Rourke sounds like a comic book character. It really does.
Yeah.
Let's see. Going into this, they definitely upped the wow factor, but not in terms of a great wow factor. It went more into the comic book realm of cartoonish overload.
It was much more cartoony overload, much more, whoa, look at our special effects, even if it doesn't make sense.
Even though,
much more, hey, here's Scarlett Johansson, and she's hot.
And look at them, look at that leather, though.
Look at that box.
Even though, again, casting on Marvel's end has always been pretty spot on.
I have no problem with Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. I think she's perfect as Black Widow. I just think when you go back and watch Iron Man 2, it's very hey, look at her. We got a chick in these movies now. Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's not all for the women, even though I think most guys went to the movies before that anyways. Let's see, there was that. In it, things that were honorable mentions. He got sick. Fury had a bigger role. He made that new power, which, what is it called again? Like it actually, in the comics, the thing he makes for the arc reactor, like he calls it a name. I can't think of what it's called.
I'm sure he calls it a name.
I'm gonna take a swing at it and say it was like something to do with his last name because it's Tony Stark. But like, yeah, a little more of the scope of everything now. They were purposely tying together bigger, better threads, being, Nick Fury's a little more in his face, and on top of that, I mean, it's Sam Jackson talking smack. You mean to tell me he just showed up and took it from you? You're Iron Man. No one takes anything from you. So good.
I still love that fight though between Stark and Rhodey. I still think that's one of the better, more grounded fights of the MCU.
And on top of that, I really dig. Honestly, like I can talk smack about Iron Man too, but I will say, if you were to look at the comics, in that moment, in that movie too, they touched base on one of the most like intriguing, dark storylines in all of Iron Man history, and that's like his battle with alcoholism because he realizes that he's only human. And like that's one thing I will put in high standards in terms of the crap fest that was Iron Man 2. Even though it's not to say that it was terrible.
It's not a bad movie.
No, not at all. But it's
I like
just,
it.
Yeah, I can watch it if it comes on FX. I'll watch it. Let's see, what else did they do? The ending
Randy's Donuts.
The donuts. Sir, please
still
exit
one of the
the
best,
donut.
Still one of my favorite donut places ever.
Exit the donut.
Have you been there?
No.
Down in LA? Oh, it's so good.
I think I'm about to go there now. Let's see, what else did they do? Happy was funny. Jon Favreau putting himself in the MCU was stroke of genius on his part. That entire fight with Johansson, when you see her just kicking the crap at everybody, and then he finally beats one guy, goes, I got him. Everyone's all tied up, and you're like, what the crap? It's great. Perfect moment there, just showing like Black Widow at her finest. Let's see. Rourke, Mickey Rourke was like.
I love Mickey Rourke.
He was great. Like, I want my birth. How does he say birth? Birth?
I don't know.
It's like, is it a bird from Russia?
No, I love Mickey Rourke. In anything, I love him.
He was great.
I thought he was great.
The ending of the movie honestly felt like just so much cheese at the end in terms of how they beat him.
It's like pure cheese.
It's like even though that chase scene of all of the like Navy SEAL bots, the Air Force bots chasing Tony around Stark Expo, that was awesome as heck. And then on top of that, spoiler alert, he saves Peter Parker. It's now officially canon. Even Tom Holland has gone out and said it. The kid who had the mask on is supposed to be Peter Parker.
Really?
Look into it.
I guess I missed that.
Yeah, Tom Holland actually went out and said it because people were asking, like, is that him? Is that him? And Tom Holland's like, I legit just got told by Kevin Feige that apparently that was supposed to be Peter that, like, Iron Man saves, so that's why, like, when he sees him, he's just like, oh, hey, I know about you, outside of the fact that, like, all of this has happened, but, like, he's a little more starstruck because it's, like, it's the guy that saved him. The more you know.
That definitely sounds... We're going with this as we make it up.
Pretty sure. But I'll give it to you.
I mean, I'll take it. It works.
Why not? I'll give it to you.
Why not?
But like it just the end scene, like you finally see War Machine just shredding things. Like certain shots will forever stick with me. Like just him with the machine gun across his arm, just shredding through it, and you see all the oil across the machine mask. Like certain moments.
I love that one shot in the final fight scene where they're fighting all the bots. That one like panning circular shot,
and it was just them just blowing stuff up. Like
I love that shot.
That was a great shot. It's like that. I want more of that. But then just like how Whiplash just shows up, and then they have to shoot the stupid laser beams together, and that's how they save the day. I'm like,
the fight was very cheese. It was very anticlimactic.
Building up to it.
It was very like we're not sure where to go with this.
Yeah, we don't know how exactly they're gonna win it, so let's just throw a random.
So put the power rings together, and we're gonna super friends our way out of this.
Super friends. Even though leading up to it, that fight with all the robots was just
the fight with all the robots is cool, but then the
maybe you should
second
lead with that.
Whiplash comes in, it's just like, all right, guys, this is turning into Fantastic Four.
And then on top of that, the line of, all right, so big gun goes on the top. Both start walking. Oh, you have the big gun? No, I have a big gun. Yes, no, I am the big gun. Them arguing over who suits better. That was funny. Let's see. The moment he gives Pepper all of Stark Industries, the moment with Howard, the Howard Stark moment, I forgot about that. I loved that scene of Robert Downey Jr. in his office, like picking apart the Stark Expo, and that line of just, what was it, like 20 years in the grave, still taking me to school. Like, such a good line. Great writing in that regard. Like, I love that part.
Yeah.
It's like, or then just like how his last will and testament is just him getting drunk off his ass. And he
Iron Man 2 has its moments. It has a lot of good moments.
It has a lot more heart to it than the first one, which is still good. Like, not necessarily as good as the first one, but they make sure that Tony Stark is like the biggest foundation that is in the MCU, which is what has been ever since. But yeah, I would say that's Iron Man 2. Yeah?
Yeah.
Also, so then in that moment too, that was the end credit scene. Then from there was into Thor. And truthfully, Iron Man 2 is where I finally like jumped onto the MCU bandwagon, because I didn't see the Hulk in the theaters, and I didn't see Iron Man in the theaters. I came across Iron Man when I was at my cousin's in Temecula. It was just on, and I'm like, what the crap? And that was how I watched Iron Man. I'm like, so when I heard about the sequel, I've lost my mind. The introduction of Thor. This was before, like right now.
Funny thing I just noticed, it took forever for Thor to come out.
Yeah, Thor took like what?
Thor took 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Man and Incredible Hulk came out in 2008. Thor didn't come out until 2011.
Yeah, it took a year after Iron Man 2, but they were filming it like ahead of time. But it's like, the thing about it is now when you think of the MCU, they have so many things roadmapped, which is, they need it. They need it for everything, because it's just getting big. But in terms of it all, it's like we as fans just know too much in terms of the MCU, and it bothers me. It's like I was so stoked at the end of Iron Man 2 when they saw the hammer, you hear the lightning bolt. I was just like, that was Mjolnir. I'm like, that's Thor. I'm like, now in terms of movies, you're like...
And then the movie came out, and it was bad.
True. But it's like, in terms of that, it's like, I'm happy with how tight-lipped Marvel is about the fourth Avengers coming out next year. Like, it doesn't have a like subtitle as Infinity War does, and I'm like, they need to play their cards a little more close to their chest now, because it's just getting too big, and
too much stuff is coming out too early. That's part of why I don't watch trailers anymore.
And it's like, it's not to say that it's bad, because like the Marvel guys need it. They need the roadmap, but it's like they really need to up their security, and they were already super tight-lipped about it, but like things get out, man, and I'm like, it kind of loses its like essence of magical. Like Avengers 4 sounds magical as heck to me, because I'm like, I don't know anything about it yet. I don't. I know apparently Captain Marvel shows up, and the ending though, it's like but it's like at the same time I've already written off that Spider-Man is coming back, because they announced that Spider-Man sequel is after Avengers 4. Well, like
that's why I hate it. That's why I don't.
Exactly.
Marvel needs to start, like you said, they need to start playing it closer to the chest, because like it destroys all stakes when we know
someone's getting a sequel.
Spider-Man sequel coming, and Guardians Volume 3 is coming after Avengers 4. It's like, all right, well, there goes all the stakes for those characters.
Yeah, so it's like the Guardians are... Well, maybe not the Guardians. The Guardians, they could possibly...
Guardians a little less so, because some of them can get killed off in the movie.
But it's like
happens.
Peter Parker...
But Spider-Man, for sure.
Peter's fine.
Nothing's going to happen to him.
Exactly, so it's like... But when I remember in Iron Man 2, at the end, I was just like, dude, I'm so pumped on Thor, because I'm like, I didn't know it was happening. I didn't know it was coming. I had nothing
Now
prepared.
We know everything.
And exactly. So I'm like...
Marvel's a little too proud of themselves, and they kind of announce things really early. It just destroys the stakes for the what we're in right now.
And that's the thing. I was like, I'd love to see them just like, again, just keep it more tight-lipped. Just out of nowhere, I want to have that moment of just like, holy crap, because I haven't had that since Thor, and even then, Thor wasn't even that great. It had some it had some moments, again, like the Sentinel appearing.
Thor is like Incredible Hulk. Like it has like 25-30 minutes of good moments, but the fact that the movie is more than 2 hours long kind of destroys
It should have probably had like It probably needed like less than 2 hours, like 1 hour and 50 minutes, and that would have been like made it a little more bearable.
Yeah, I really like the first 25, 30 minutes when he first comes to Earth.
That was so
And
funny.
that's kind of it for me. The rest of it is just like a CGI mess.
CGI soup. It's like the moment when
Yeah.
he gets the when he's fighting the guys for the hammer. The introduction of Hawkeye was great. Him
Oh
getting hit.
yeah, Hawkeye
Yeah, Hawkeye
pops
appears.
up in this movie.
Hawkeye appears because you see him go for the rifle and he takes a step back and grabs the bow, and everyone's like, "Oh no!" Them hitting him with the car twice. I spit out my soda from laughter. The introduction of the Sentinel in the actual armory, that thing looked intimidating as all get out, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like that was, I wish I had more of that.
Still not sure how they got away with that.
Neither did I. But like that was
Because that's not theirs.
no. But it's like that was cool. Casting again flawless. All the actors were great outside of Portman. Sorry.
Portman is a fantastic actress. It's just she had nothing to work with in this movie.
No, exactly.
In any of the Thor movies.
No, they just didn't know how to write very well. The one thing I'll say in terms of Thor for both Thor 1 and Thor 2, we'll get to Ragnarok later. The thing that will forever haunt me, it's the fact that they took a alien with godlike qualities, but made him more godlike than alien. Whereas DC, and this is one of the only times I'll actually praise Superman, because you know I hate him. And that is in the movie verse of DC with Henry Cavill, whatever you want to say, the current Superman, they instantly were like, he is an alien, and that is what he is for, like, frontmost, he's an alien with godlike qualities. But he is always going to be an alien, so they treated everything like an alien. While for Thor, it was always that mysticism and, like, the explanation, like, some of the writing in terms of, like, what Midgard is and, like, the 9 realms and all these planets, like, the scientific facts of it that they used, like, that was good stuff. But it was just the fact that it was just so convoluted with, like, we're gods. It's like, no, dude, you're an Asgardian, you're an alien. We get it. Stick with that. Yeah. But it's like, and even then, like, again, casting choices were great. Chris Hemsworth, freaking flawless. Flawless performance in terms of what was given. What was given was not good, but he still delivered.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to in this movie. Performances were good considering the script.
Yeah, considering what they had to work with, the performances were very well done. What was given, though, was not good. Yeah. It was definitely held together by their actors and, like, just, like, kind of saying, we have to.
Yeah.
So it was good in terms of that regard. Still very, very low on my list of MCU films, which is, I think, what everybody is at that point. But that's Thor. Then comes one of my favorite movies in all of Phase 1, which is the first Avenger.
Captain America? Really?
The reason being, though, is like you said, I kind of draw a connection between Iron Man 1 and Cap America, where in terms of, like, it's just a more grounded story. It takes realism. It takes, like, because again, it's set in actual historical things. It is World War II. The Nazis are winning. It's like, and there's this, and in reality, if you were to look into the historical aspects, Nazis were trying to do these, like, scientific experiments. Like, the Nazis were crazy. So it's like, it's still kind of out there because, you know, it's Marvel, but it's like, it's still so much more set in stone in terms of just like, dude, Captain America kills people. People forget about that. As does Iron Man. Like, they have body counts. It's like, on top of that, Cap not always used a shield in terms of, like, I have to use a shield to be good. Like, there's that one shot with him in the Howling Commandos where he kicks down the door and he has a pistol drawn. He's just shooting the pistol at people. So I'm like, he has a body count. And it's like, and at the same time, it's still so much toned down. It's like, Tommy Lee Jones was great. Agent Carter was great. Freaking casting of Chris Evans. Sweet Moses. Sebastian Stan. Like, everything about Captain America was just like, it was kind of like that all or nothing moment again, but not nearly as much as Iron Man. It was like, they have a little more fun with it because, you know, Hydra. But it was still like, we have to respect the source material a lot because it's historically speaking. It's like, it is us playing and fudging history here. But at the same time, if they didn't respect history enough, nobody would have dug it, because they're like, that's what made Captain America so good, was because they respected it in the comics in terms of where he came from. It was still outlandish as all get out because, comic books. But it was still like, they respect the fact that, like, this happened. People died. It was a terrible thing that happened in human history. But we're still gonna have it, like, he's the golden child. He's the guy that, like, everyone rallied behind, both in comic book world and in actuality. Like, when Captain America came out and, like, was set in World War II, like, everybody dug him, because it was just like, that's the way to be an American. Because why? Because you do what you need to do. You do what is necessary. And it's like, and that's why, for me, it's like, it's one of my favorites. It really is. Captain America movies have always been very solid, but I'll never consider Civil War to really just be Captain America. We'll get to that later. But, like, I dug the first Avenger. I really did. Casting, flawless. CGI was not necessarily too over the top in terms of, like, the elements of Hydra being super advanced and super scientific. It's like, it just kind of, it was a grounded movie again, and I loved it for it. It was gritty. It was kind of dark.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not really a fan of that movie, honestly. I think the first 45 minutes or so are great.
Mm-hmm.
But ironically, I feel like once Captain America comes into this Captain America movie, it loses me.
And that's fine too. And it's like, at the same time, it's like, it's still to the point where it's like, you might not see eye to eye with me, but it's like, you can still kind of, like, you've seen my way, and you're just like, yeah, I can see it a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's,
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not just, and again, it's not necessarily like it's flawless by any means. And it's like, the idea that they were able to get away with, oh, well, Bucky fell off a train and somehow he survived. It's like, yeah, that was a big drop, though. It's like,
that's fair.
It's like, but even then, it's like the first few minutes when he's just like the scrawny little kid, dude. That's some of the freaking greatest moments in that entire movie. Like you said, the first 45 minutes are just flawless. Everything about it, just wanting to do what he can, just trying his best, and everyone saying no, and finally he gets the chance and becomes the first superhero. It's great.
Yeah.
He's still not my favorite, but it's like, I respect the writing of it, because they kept true to both the character of Cap as well as the historical accuracy of World War II.
Mm-hmm.
You got anything else for?
I don't have much to add. I mean, to me, like, I don't have much to say about this movie. This is just one of those Marvel movies to me that's just like, oh yeah, that happened.
It was just it's kind of like the necessary evil to some extent.
Yeah, I feel like most origin stories are.
Yeah, for sure. Then we get into the make or break moment of all of the MCU up until next week.
Yes.
The very first Avengers.
Then we get Avengers. May 4th, 2012. Good old Joss Whedon taking over direction.
And taking it with a punch of freaking everything you can think of in a movie. Got some heart, got some humor, got a big old cast, the return of Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Helicarrier. Oh man, there were some great moments in Avengers.
I just love this. Is just like it's just an entertaining movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a really good entertaining movie.
Everything about it just
ties together a bunch of stories and opens up a whole bunch of pathways for new stories. It's just a really good movie. Like this, I wish all of the Avengers movies were like this.
Mm-hmm.
But right now we're 1 for 2 in terms of good Avengers movies, which is why I'm kind of nervous for Infinity War. Because Age of Ultron was a big pile of poop. But we'll get into that later.
Again, yeah, we'll get there. In terms of the Avengers, though, let's see. It's like you start off with Stark doing, Stark things, because Iron Man. It's a great time. Flaws again. Like, this is the moment where Tony Stark and like Robert Downey Jr. finally became like the same person. Also, for those who don't know, he owns the character in terms of live action rights. He bought that at like the height of Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Because he had that much money and that much power. That is why you will never go to a Disneyland park and meet Tony Stark. It's because Robert Downey Jr. said no, and it's great, and I love it. But this is that moment where like,
since you were talking about beginnings, I will say one of my only real criticisms of the Avengers,
for sure,
is the fact that the first 15 minutes are so dumb.
Oh, for sure, yeah, for sure.
The first 15 minutes of this movie were like, come on, really? Like, I came to see this big, epic superhero crossover movie, and I get a slow car chase through a tunnel.
Yeah, before the actual like intro, like in the opening sequence, like title. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Like not even a high speed car chase, like a 40-mile-an-hour car chase.
Yeah, and then on top of that, they did the one thing that even Jeremy Renner was pissy about all the movie, which is they turned the one character that really didn't have any screen time up until this point and made him a villain.
Yeah.
Tom Hiddleston, forgot about saying Tom Hiddleston. Most perfect cast call of all of Thor was Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston. And then on top of that,
Tom Hiddleston, he was honestly, I think he was kind of just okay in Thor, but he nailed it in Avengers. I think just because his writing was a lot better.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
he had more to work with.
And like they played with that little like gray area that now like it's like symbiotic with Loki, because it's like that in the comics. He's the gray hero. He's an anti-hero. Sometimes he might help his brother. Sometimes he's out to stab his brother in the back. It happens. But it's like, he shows up. You do this car chase. You take away Hawkeye, which was just like, sure, fine, whatever. You get to the title screen, which just, oh my god, brought a tear to my eye. Just that, and then freaking, what's his name? Alan Silvesky or whatever. I think he just did the Ready Player One song, like, music. Like, that man music. I want to say he's right below John Williams in terms of just, like, theme for me with the Avengers theme. It's just so iconic at this point. So you got that. Then you got Stark, and, again, you have the most symbiotic moment of RDJ being Tony Stark, and it was great. The moment Coulson...
before that, I believe before that, you have that moment of Black Widow with the interrogation.
Was that before? I thought that was after. I forget
if it's before or after the Stark scene, but either way, it's in the beginning. And I still think that's the better, like, those 5 minutes with Black Widow at the beginning of Avengers do a better job, like, characterizing her than the entirety of Iron Man 2 did.
For sure. I don't even remember the pacing in that movie. I thought it opened with Stark.
I forget the order. There's the Stark scene, there's the Black Widow scene, and there's the Hulk scene. Hulk comes after Black Widow, but I forget if Stark is before or after Black Widow.
Yeah, but
whatever. Like, those are the 3 opening sequences of this movie. And I still think the Black Panther sequence, or the
Black Widow.
Yeah, the Black Panther.
Widow.
I did it again. Black Widow.
Widow. Scarlett Johansson.
The Black Widow sequence is really, really good. Like I said, it did a better job with introducing her. Honestly, you could have cut her out of Iron Man 2 and just introduced her with the beginning of
right
Avengers,
there, and be good.
Fine.
For sure, but at the same time, have the connections and all that be in place. Works.
Yeah.
Let's see. From there, you have Fury getting Cap, and him like reliving his demons to some extent in terms of World War II. From there, from there you go to Loki trying to get the... What do you try to get? The comet. Or whatever.
I forget exactly what it was. He needed some kind of...
like material from Germany.
To do some evil thing.
Gobbledygook. Oh man, what a good word. It was something he needed from the scientist from Thor, so they went to Germany to get it. That scene too, of him like going to this party and like you see like the transformation from the big huge horn to like the suit and stuff. Him grabbing the guy and having that like drill might be one of the darkest things the MCU had done to that point. In terms of sound effects, the actor who was supposed to lose an eye just losing it and like tweaking out on a table.
And
like,
Tom Hiddleston just chuckling the whole
like
time.
exactly, like perfect moment of Loki just not caring, and I was just like, oh, he's psychotic. I love it. From there, Cap shows up, saves the day like you should. Couldn't do so much. Again, they did in the writing in terms of that scene with Loki and then the guy, like the old man standing. Loved that so much. That was probably one of my favorite lines in terms of the beginning sequences of the Avengers. Is like like he won't kneel because that's how it's supposed to be, and like there's always going to be a person like you. Like that was just such a good callback in terms of just one, Cap's character, the fact that they're in Germany, and just like Joss Whedon crushed it. So many good little tiny moments.
Mm-hmm.
Introduction of Iron Man comes with "Shoot to Thrill" by AC/DC, which was rad. Jeez, don't die.
No.
We're only on what, film 6? Oh man.
Jesus.
We have 12 more.
41 minutes.
Woo.
But I think just generally speaking, I think the Avengers, it's very straightforward. It doesn't do anything special, but that's not a bad thing, because even though it doesn't do anything special, it does pretty much everything perfectly.
Mm-hmm. And even then, it's like the entire thing of it was special.
It's the perfect action movie.
Mm-hmm. It has that little like essences of that lead into Civil War were drawn. You had the Avengers doing the ultimate smackdown in the forest.
In the forest?
Yeah, when they get Loki from Germany and then Thor appears and takes him away.
Oh, right. I was thinking the beginning of Age of Ultron. I forgot about that.
No. There was that moment of them in the woods.
Right. Shakespeare in the Park.
Yeah, Shakespeare in the Park. Doth mother know you weareth her drapes? Freaking great. The first moment of Hulk just being absolutely terrifying.
I liked that they actually made Hulk scary in this movie, or at least tried.
The lighting was great in that moment. Him like trying to fight it was great. Scarlett Johansson freaking out. Oh, such a good moment. From there, like just how everyone like got divided in terms of that. You had the moment with Coulson, and where Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. spawned, which I still question.
I still question that.
Even though that line from him still was really funny, so that's what that does. So good.
What was the exact... I forget what the exact justification for him not actually being dead was.
In terms of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. lore, it's supposed to be like, there's this crazy scientific thing, and like they call it like an island in Tahiti or something. Like there's some islands that you're supposed to go to, and it's supposed to be like it's a secret S.H.I.E.L.D. research base where they are experimenting with like cell regeneration or some shenanigans, because Marvel. It's a huge rigmarole, and I gave up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. long ago.
Yeah, that show was something.
The only thing they got right was Ghost Rider. That's the only that's my shameless plug-in. Ghost Rider and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was dope. But get back to the Avengers though. That entire ending fight sequence was just everything about it. Everything. Flawless. Every hero had an epic team up with another hero. Every hero had a moment where they themselves were the hero. Hulk showing up for the first time that could be one of the greatest intros for like Hulk being a hero ever in anything. TV shows, everything. That moment of him just like, I'm always angry, and then turning and punching the thing. Oh,
yeah.
Magical moment. Him beating the crap out of Loki is great. Lightning Rod, great. Just the Avengers. Just, even if you've never watched any of the MCU movies to that point, just the Avengers is, like you said, the perfect action movie. Everything about it.
It's just a great action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's got everything you want from an action movie.
And that's why it's up there with Iron Man. It's like it's not. It just it was the make or break moment of the MCU, and it made it. And then we fall down into the pits of the abyss because Marvel realizes they can do no wrong. With which movie was it after that? Was that Iron Man 3 after the Avengers?
Iron Man 3 was after Avengers. And as much as people like to defend Iron Man 3, honestly, I think it's the weakest Iron Man movie. I put it below 2, just because Iron Man 3 is just not very entertaining or enjoyable.
It has funny moments. The kid was... There's one moment that will forever stick with me, and it's a moment of improv from both RDJ and the kid who plays Harley. And it's when he's leaving. And he's, like, saying something, and the kid's just like, I'm cold. And he just goes, oh, are you? It's like, I knew you were going to say that, because we're connected. And he drives away, and, like, that entire moment was improv from both RDJ and the kid. They were just... That was just something they were doing on set. And they were, like, done in the movie. I'm like, that was... Do more of that. That's funny. But it's like...
Yeah. I think Iron Man 3 was just trying a little too hard to humanize a character that didn't really need to be humanized.
He was already humanized enough.
Exactly. Like, the whole... Like, he was been humanized from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then it seems like they were like, we need to have a dark, humanizing movie for Iron Man. And the whole thing just felt unnecessary. Yeah. Which is also why nothing substantial or noteworthy happens in Iron Man 3.
And even the thing that is supposed to be, like, noteworthy and substantial, they wrote out.
It gets retconned immediately.
Yep. Being Pepper.
Yeah, and it's like, the whole thing is like, yeah, well, not even that. I wasn't even thinking Pepper. I was thinking, like him quitting Iron Man and not doing the suits anymore.
Yep.
Both of those things, both the two big things that were supposed to be the defining moments of Iron Man 3 were retconned almost immediately. Yep. And it's one of those things where every single MCU movie has at least some kind of impact on the greater storyline. Iron Man 3 has nothing.
Well,
nothing in that movie actually sticks.
For now, I will say this.
Look,
because we're in Infinity War territory here. We're jumping long shot. The thing that they explained a little bit in Iron Man 3 looks like it's finally making an appearance, and this is from the trailer, like the second trailer that they released. I know you probably haven't seen it, but it's like his new suit. It's supposed to be the Extremis suit, finally. So that's like the thing in the movie where Extremis being like the guys exploding and stuff. In the comics, Extremis is supposed to be a suit that he personally like integrate, like it weaves into his skin, so that way he always has a suit. It's not that like he has to have a briefcase or bracelets. So like in Infinity War's trailer, there's a moment where you see it like being built down his arm. So I'm like, that might be something what we finally see some little piece of Iron Man 3 actually continue, maybe. And this is
part.
right. It's terrible, but it's like at least it's something, I guess. I will also say, in terms of like, it's not really me defending it, but it's just saying like I really did enjoy the fact that the Mandarin ended up being just a random dude named Terry.
Like
that made me laugh so hard.
I
Terry,
like that little twist.
It's like, even though the Mandarin, I get comic book wise, he's supposed to have all these rings and all, like he's supposed to be the big bad and stuff like that. That moment of him just like, I'm Terry. I had to do a scary voice and, Trevor. That's his name. Trevor. I'm Trevor.
I wish MCU would do more of that, but since, comic book fans being comic book fans, everyone flipped out that they changed that in Iron Man 3, and now
that's why it got retconned.
MCU is just like directly all by the books. Mm-hmm. It's
kind of sad.
Annoying.
Yeah. So that's my little spiel. So we have the connection to possibly the Infinity War, the Extremis armor, and then I just love Trevor because Trevor. Also, I also like the fact that they made Tony Stark have to like go back to like bare boning it in terms of the last like infiltration scene before he got his suit back. I did like that scene of that. He had to like go to Home Depot and buy all this random crap, and he had to make everything. That was cool. I'll give him that. I'll give him that moment. I like that part with Tony.
Yeah. But as much as I am kind of about Iron Man 3, that's at least more than I am about Thor: The
Yeah,
Dark World.
exactly.
This is a movie a lot of the time I forget it existed.
It really, it's so bad. It's really hard to like keep it lined up. It's like they have funny lines with Chris Hemsworth because he's Chris Hemsworth. They have the ether, so an Infinity Stone has to appear, and then they had like my big moments are his beginning fight when he's like, "I fought you, like you're big, fought bigger." Like that line's funny. The entire thing with the ether, I just didn't care about because the Dark Elves are just no, just no. I think the villain's name was Malekith. I don't even know. That's a guess.
I forget.
I don't even know. But it's like
I watched this movie when it came out. Then I watched it again like a year ago, and I was just like, yeah, that's enough.
Mm-hmm. But it's like
I don't need to watch that again.
Like the moments I have is his line with the big giant rock monster, the fact that the ether is there and that's an Infinity Stone, and then the introduction of the Collector, Benicio del Toro, at the very end, where the ether and the Tesseract were supposed to go. I don't know about the Tesseract anymore because it looks like it's in the vault. We'll get to that later too.
Yeah.
This
is one of those movies where it's not.
It's a necessary evil again.
Iron Man 3 was like, it wasn't bad. It was just unnecessary and boring. Thor: The Dark World. It's
absolutely.
I'm hesitant to say it's not bad. I'm not gonna say it's bad, but I'm definitely not gonna say it's not.
It's just kind of there
because there's no reason for this movie.
It's like the only thing that really tied together was the Collector is there in the universe, and there's another Infinity Stone.
It was like, all right, guys, we need to introduce this Infinity Stone.
What are we gonna do? Let's do Dark Elves.
Let's just make a 2-hour movie with Thor in it, and he has to introduce this Infinity Stone at some point. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go.
Exactly. And then they're like,
and then that was it.
And then like I think halfway through they were like, hey, we're reading this comic book and there's a guy called the Collector and he just has this giant vast museum of things. Let's put him in there. That's it. 2 big moments in Dark World. The ether is an Infinity Stone. Benicio del Toro as the Collector. The end. Moving on.
Yeah. I think just the problem with this movie is just it's so obviously just Marvel sleepwalking through the process.
Again, we're going down to the
it's very obvious no one really cared about this movie.
It's like the actors had to do with what they got, what they were signed on, which sucks.
Yeah, it was like, well, we need Thor 2, and we need to introduce this Infinity Stone.
Go.
Have fun. Your markets that go.
From there, Winter Soldier was next?
Winter Soldier was next. This is the one...
Winter Soldier, baby.
So, to me, this is an almost great movie. I think the only reason I'm hesitant to call this movie great is just because the Russo brothers don't know how to direct action sequences.
One does.
But
one does. In terms of this film, the brother who's good with action sequences filmed the beginning of the movie. That's why that boat scene was actually pretty dang good.
Yeah, Winter Soldier, I think, is one of the best movies in the MCU. This is
the fact that they completely
very good
leveled everything that you thought you knew of since the Avengers, and they were just like, S.H.I.E.L.D. is dead. S.H.I.E.L.D. is not what you think it is. S.H.I.E.L.D. is the enemy. Like, holy mother of God.
Yeah, they were just like
they got
S.H.I.E.L.D.
balls
sucks.
of steel with that moment. Like, just the size of tanks with that play. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just like, S.H.I.E.L.D. sucks. Captain America's gonna have to kill a whole lot of people now.
Mm-hmm.
His buddy is a murderer.
Yep.
And yeah, everything you like, go fuck yourself, because this movie's destroying everything in the MCU right now.
Screw your feelings. But it was
Winter Soldier's it's really good. It feels more like an espionage movie or like a war movie than a superhero movie.
And that's what makes it so good. Casting was still flawless. You had the great car chase with Nick Fury talking crap to his car. What does work? Air conditioning. Of course it does. The chase in the hallway when he first sees the Winter Soldier and he has to like jump through the building and he throws his shield and he catches it. That scene of him just catching the shield was just great.
Mm-hmm. But again, like I said, and for the remainder of this video, you're gonna hear me talking a lot of shit about the Russo brothers directing action sequences.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to do it, and I don't know
One,
how they're still
it's
MCU directors.
again.
If you ever wonder, if you're ever watching a Marvel movie, and you're like, why the hell is the camera shaking so fucking much that I can't see what's happening? That's the Russo brothers. You're welcome.
That's one
And
of
I
them again.
hate that style of direction so much.
And again,
it's literally only it's shaky cam during action sequences. The only excuse it is to be there is to cover up bad choreography.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why every great action movie ever does not have shaky cam. Because they're actually confident in their choreography. And that's why I don't like the Russo brothers. They're very, very insecure about their action sequences and the choreography in the action sequences. So they resort to just shaking the camera to make it look a little better. Well, that's also why I'm a little worried about Infinity War, because they're in charge of that.
What I would want them to do to make them better, which I hope that they finally learned for Infinity War, is one brother is better about directing more of the conversation moments. They have to speak a lot. They have to explain what's going on. They have to give you backstory. One director's really good at that, and the other director is actually really good with the action sequences. But the way that the Russo brothers do it is one brother directs a certain portion of the film to a certain point, and then the next half is the other brother. So a lot of your shaky cam it's one brother, because again, you've seen the movie, and that boat fight scene's solid. When he fights that guy, and it's oh, I thought all you are is a shield, and he takes off his helmet, and that fight of him fighting him one-on-one, that was actually a really good fight, because they have the pan out and you see him do a flip and kick him. They have the ability to, but it's the fact that halfway through each movie they'd toss this thing aside, and they're oh, never mind, I thought I was done. It's they just need to have one brother do action, one brother do conversation, and then I would feel that they wouldn't necessarily be perfect, but they would definitely do better.
Yeah.
But Winter Soldier is still up there for me. That is that one easily takes over the first Avenger. There's so many good moments. There's so many interesting plot lines. The first time you see Falcon in full costume is just so dope. The Doctor Strange name drop. There's some great moments.
It's just a good movie.
Mm-hmm. Because it's against the grain of most superhero films.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a highlight of Phase 2.
Mm-hmm. And then
it was Guardians.
My all-time
This movie came
favorite
out of
movie.
Fucking nowhere.
It's beautiful.
And I loved it. I remember I was on vacation with my dad. We were in Hawaii, and we were just we just took a surf trip. And we were surfing in the morning, and there was a theater down the street, and we were we literally just needed a couple hours to kill. We were just oh, you want to go see that movie? We're all right, yeah. I mean, we were expecting the standard Marvel movie, colorful, some good jokes, some good fights, and then we saw it, and we both walked out that was fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
I was not expecting that at all. And I don't know who exactly allowed James, whose idea it was to just let James Gunn do whatever he wanted, but it was such a good idea. Because I love this movie so much.
And it's so I take it, you're not the trailer person, so you probably didn't even watch any of the trailers leading up to it. You just went in completely blind.
I try not to watch trailers.
Yeah. For me, it's I knew about the conception of it, because I remember when they first casted Chris Pratt in this role, I myself was absolutely, I was so stoked. Because before he was Peter Quill, to me, he was always Andy Dwyer, and he still is Andy Dwyer. Chris Pratt will forever be Andy Dwyer. But I remember when they casted him, everybody talked smack about it. Even there's an interview I read, and James Gunn even said somebody told him who was coming up next, and they're it's Chris Pratt, and he goes, I don't want the fat white guy from Parks and Rec. He legit said that. He did not want it. But then when he came in and he said the lines, he was just he got it. He was he is Peter Quill. And I remember everyone was still like, he's so fat and this and that. And I'm like, you just wait. I'm like, y'all talking smack now? I'm like, bet you money he's just going to get absolutely shredded. And that's exactly what they did.
Marvel gives you a few $1,000,000. It's a good incentive to get in shape.
And the nice thing that they did for Chris Pratt on Parks and Rec was they just wrote it into the character.
Yeah.
And it's like, so
all
he
you did was stop drinking beer?
Yeah. How much beer were you drinking?
How much beer were you drinking?
Way too much. Way too much. So good. Such a good moment. But it's like, I remember all this hype about it, and I was just like, I'm down just because of Chris Pratt. And I remember, like, the first trailer came out, and I sent it to my sister. And my sister is not a superhero fan. She really isn't. She despises them all because she's like, there's just too dang many. She's like, Batman I can get behind. Iron Man I can get behind. That's it. And even then, she's like, I don't even watch Iron Man 2 or Iron Man 3. She watches Iron Man 1, and she's done. And I sent her Guardians, and she was just like, that looks so freaking great. And I was like, and she's like, but do I need to watch any other films? I said, nope. I said, Guardians is its entirely own separate beast. There's obviously connections in terms of like the long goal, like, you know, Thanos appears and all of that, but it's like you didn't have to know anything about anything at all, ever. It's like you get introduced to Peter Quill right at the very beginning, which I usually see movies very fast. I didn't see Guardians until like 2 months after it came out, just because I didn't have anybody to go with, and my sister actually beat me in seeing it. And when she told me about it, she was just like, it made her almost pee herself out of laughter. She's like, it's freaking hilarious. But she also told me, and it was a fair warning, and she was just like, the beginning's going to break you, though. The beginning's just going to hit you right in the teeth, and you are going to shatter. And I was like, okay, that sounds terrifying, and I didn't know what to expect. And I went in with my buddies, and I still didn't know anything. I'm like, I read some of the comics, so I'm like, okay, he was an orphan, this and that. So like maybe it's just like him becoming an orphan, and then whatever happens. And it's just like, it's the most, in terms of like groundedness, in terms of that film, like that was the most grounded moment in this giant space opera, and it just destroyed me because of that take on cancer. It's like so many films kind of glance by sickness, but this one, it's like, this is it, man. It's like, welcome to the movie. It's like, she's gone. It's like, and she's like, you get to see it happen, and I was just like, I'm done. Because, you know, I've dealt with it. I was there. That was me, really. It's like I dealt with a death like that at that same age, and like that's why Peter Quill is such an important character to me. But it's like, I remember all my friends looked at me in the theater, and they were just like, are you okay? I'm like, shut up. And I left the film. I left the theater my first time watching, and I left the theater to get my breath because I was just sobbing. And I was like, it then just showed me, though, like, with that kind of thing happening in life, it's like you can grow to be something better. It's like, don't use it as like a crutch. Use it as just a reason to not let other people be that way. And it's like, and I will forever be thankful to James Gunn writing this movie in that way, because Star-Lord in the comics was just a disaster. He was all like, oh, if he goes to a different planet, he gets a new ability and this and that. And I'm like, he's too cosmic. He's too much of a god to me. And I'm like, in this one, he's just a kid. Like, up until the very end of the movie, you think he's just a human. Spoiler alert, too. And it's like, and that's what thing I love about it. I'm like, Peter Quill became, like, I realized there's so much of me, like, in terms of that character. Like, Iron Man used to be my favorite, and then Peter Quill showed up, and I was just like, that's me in a nutshell. I'm like, dealt with something bad, and instead of letting me be all depressed and sad about it all the time, I was like, I'm just going to be happy and be excited and be energetic and try to make everybody, like, laugh with me instead, because laughter is better. And it shows in that movie. It's like that. I think my favorite line ever from him is when Gamora's like, Quill, your ship is filthy. And he just goes, oh, she has no idea. Take a black light to this thing? Looked like a Jackson Pollock painting. I about cried in the theater when that happened, and all my friends were like, I don't get it. And I'm just like, you'll learn soon enough. I'm like, you'll learn soon enough, child. You will learn. But it was like, there's so many things about that film that just like, it became a cult hit within literally overnight. One, because the music was just absolutely, no one saw it coming. It's like it broke.
That soundtrack was ballsy, yeah.
So apparently they were saying the Walkman was actually supposed to be Darth Vader. But then Gunn was like, what can you do with a Vader? He's like, that doesn't really open up any doors. It's just going to be a random toy that Peter likes to keep around. He's like, but if I were to give him a Walkman, he's like, I can play with music. And that's exactly what happened. Like that intro to Guardians 1 will forever be like one of my favorite moments of just like, Come and Get Your Love by Redbone, man. Just Chris Pratt dancing in the middle of nowhere. It's great.
Yeah.
Then the casting choices too. It's like outside of Chris Pratt, it's like you had Zoe Saldana who was doing Uhura in Star Trek. She's now just like the queen of all sci-fi.
And she was an Avatar.
Yeah, she was an Avatar too. I forgot about that. But then again,
she's just like a really good like character actress.
Mm-hmm. She's really good at that. Dave Bautista, like first time ever in a movie, Drax the Destroyer, freaking crushed it. It's like that's James Gunn's cynical aspect of writing, and it was so good. Just all of his stupid lines. Why would I put my finger across his throat? Oh no, that's a metaphor for you slicing his throat. It's a metaphor. You know what a metaphor is. Everybody knows this. You know this? Yeah. No.
And then, what was his name? Lee Pace. That's who.
Oh yeah, who plays Ronan? Plays Ronan.
Yep. I got a kick out of that because I grew up watching the show. I grew up watching Pushing Daisies.
So
where
good.
He's the main guy, and he's like the nerdy love interest baker guy, and it was so funny
good.
seeing him as Ronan.
Yep. Then you have Bradley Cooper as Rocket, who just come on, he's a talking raccoon. So good.
And you had Vin Diesel reprising his role as the Iron Giant.
Pretty much,
except like as a tree.
And he says a total of 5 words, right?
3.
No, 5.
No,
I am
4.
Groot. No, 5.
4.
5.
I am Groot, and then
we
are Groot.
5.
That's 4.
I am Groot is 3.
I am Groot.
We are.
Oh,
5.
Shit.
Count. 5. We are Groot.
Look,
I am Groot.
Look,
M and R are not the same word.
It's late. It's late. I'm tired.
You're not gonna get over that one. M and R are the same.
All right, Guardians
thing.
is a great movie. Moving on. Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Not so great.
This movie sucks. Personally, I think this is the worst movie in the MCU.
I can kind of. I think Thor is still worse to me.
No.
Mostly because my mentality on that is it definitely plays like the first Avengers is like the perfect team up movie. It's them still kind of figuring out if they're friends or not, and then this one, like the very beginning sequence, like I don't like that you had to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to like understand why they're attacking this random Hydra base. I don't get that. But it's like that entire action sequence was like it was them finally being friendly. Like again, you have all of the cool little like one-shot team-up moments. You see all the new toys that Stark has made. But then on top of that, you also, like, later on in the film, you have the seeds of the Civil War, where it's like, why would you make Ultron this, that, and this? And, like, you have already, like, clashing heads of Stark and Rogers there.
I'm not doubting the importance of Age of Ultron to the MCU.
Yeah, well, I'm
just saying, structurally, as a movie, I think this is the worst. No, there are so many plot holes in this movie. It's so broken. It's so poorly shot. And it's so not entertaining.
It's like, let's see.
Like it feels like it was made in like 2 months.
Yeah.
Like it feels like everyone involved was just so full of themselves after the first Avengers that they were just like, you like Avengers? How about this Avengers? Oh, Avengers. Here's that thing. Hey, look at that thing. Oh, look at that thing. And then, like, 90% of the way through making the movie, they were like, oh, shit, there's not actually a story. Mm-hmm. And they just had to shove a whole bunch of story elements into it.
Let's see.
And then this movie's a mess. And it's not... I could even forgive that if there were some good action sequences to make up for it. But there's not. The action is shot terribly.
There's a lot of moments where slow-mo shots are taken too long, like that entire scene when they're defending the drill.
Oh my god, no, yeah, the final fight in this movie, it's like it was just a photo shoot that they CGI'd some robots onto.
It's just them doing a bunch of like acrobatic tricks and like throwing stuff. In terms of again, like the cast still, like, they were dealt a crap hand, but the cast did what was like they kept it together. They played their roles, which was good. The casting though of James Spader as Ultron, give that guy some props. Like for the fact that
casting, yeah.
like him as Ultron, like his voice was just so intimidating all the time. There were some decent little one-liners. The introduction of Wakanda, so like there's still, again, there's like, this is kind of just like going after the fact that it's the seeds of all these other things that were going to happen down the road. I'm not looking at it in terms of like structurally. I'm thinking now in terms of like it's not that good of a film, but in terms of it being like integral to where the MCU is now, you had Claw show up, lose his arm, so Andy Serkis appears, and he looked terrifying. I'm used to him being skin and bone because he's Gollum. Let's see. The fight with Hulk and Iron Man just
completely unnecessary.
Completely unnecessary. It was just
the full Hulkbuster scene was so contrived and stupid. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When they were like, "Ooh, you liked this thing? Hey, now we have this thing."
Scarlet Witch appears, Vision appears, which still, like,
both of them are not explained in the slightest.
No, gosh, no. The fact that they got Paul Bettany to come back, though, like, he originally was done with the film, like, he didn't want to be acting at all. That's why he was Jarvis. He got fed up with the acting aspect of work. He was just like, I'll do my voice instead. So the fact that they got him as Vision, and now we got him in Civil War, and now he's a little more integral in Infinity War. Like, I'm stoked on that regard. That's cool. What other things were they able to do? The scepter blew up, so you got the Mind Stone. We don't talk about Quicksilver because it's Quicksilver. Burn, but not really.
Yeah, it's just this movie. It's the other movies in the MCU that I don't like. I don't like them just because they're bland and just because like nothing really happens and they're just kind of boring. But Ultron is the one movie in the MCU where I'm like, this is legitimately a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's so just broken.
I feel it was definitely the thing I feel with it, honestly, is like you can blame Marvel just as much too, where they were like they did what they did, but I also feel it was kind of Disney like rushing them through it, because it's also like it was the first Avengers film that was really like of Disney had their hand over the Marvel toys a little more.
Yeah.
Where they were like, we just need you to do something where we can sell toys. So it's like,
so throw in the Hulkbuster.
Yeah, it's like
throw in Ultron.
Mm-hmm. So it's like I can see I kind of will put blame on Disney a little bit, but at the same time, it's like Marvel should have definitely been more like, no, we're doing it our own thing now, which I think they finally, like, after that movie, they were like, yeah, you no longer have a say in what we do. We do what we want, and we'll give you toys. It's like, and Disney didn't fight them because they realized that one film they tried to put their D in legitimately. Dang, that was a good one. The big Disney D.
Well,
into the film, they realized that it's one of the most hated ones they've done.
Well, I'm just looking at what's next on the list, and I'm questionable if that's the movie where they started to make that call.
Ant-Man?
Because Ant-Man was the next one, and I hate this movie.
Yeah.
But I'm also very biased towards this movie because Edgar Wright is my favorite director of all time.
And they didn't.
And Edgar Wright directed like 40% of this movie.
And then they got rid of him.
It's so obvious which parts are his. And that's part of why I hate this movie so much. I don't hate Ant-Man because it's a bad movie or because it's poorly made. I just hate it because there is such a noticeable drop in quality of the parts that Edgar Wright did not direct. And it's so obvious which parts were his. And that's part of why I hate it, because there was so much behind the scenes drama during the making of Ant-Man, and it just led to a movie that just had no consistency.
Yeah. Again, like, in terms of the overall thing, I will say again, over and over again, in terms of Marvel amidst all of their flop, because there are flops, people. It's just the fact that they have us trained in terms of wanting to see everything because everything's connected. Ant-Man was a flop. It really was. It does have an audience. It does have good acting though. Like Paul Rudd's great. Michael Douglas is great. I can't think of her name, but the girl who plays Rachel or whatever in Lost as Hope was great. The guy who plays Cross was great. Like Marvel knows how to cast well. They always have. The only thing I will say that that Fox has done that is on par with their casting calls was
X-Men.
Hugh Jackman, Magneto, Patrick Stewart. So it's Ian McClellan, Patrick Stewart, and Hugh Jackman. Like,
and Ryan Reynolds.
And
Deadpool. The second time.
Ryan Reynolds had to force them on that. And even then, that wasn't even Ryan Reynolds. If you want to go down that path, there's a comic book in Deadpool where Deadpool deliberately says he looks like he's a mix between Ryan Reynolds got bit by a radioactive Sharpay. So the creator of Deadpool deliberately kind of casted Ryan Reynolds. The more you know.
Yeah.
So again, like Marvel as a whole is they have a pretty solid run in terms of just casting calls. Their casting choices are always almost perfect. So it was like, in terms of Ant-Man that way, it's good. But I feel like at that point it was just like them testing the waters in terms of like CGI. Because the last time we had a movie where it was all about shrinking, I swear it was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Like that was the last movie I thought I can think of where it's like something being very tiny and things having to be very big was this crucial. Was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. It's like, it's been that long ago where human objects being plates and gnomes and all that crap had to be exaggerated as much as they were in Ant-Man. It's been that long ago. So it was very much...
Yeah, I actually haven't thought of it that way.
So it was like, but at the same time, that's not saying that it was good by any means. But it was like, it was them kind of like flexing their muscles because it's like, what? After Ant-Man was...
Civil War.
So I'm jumping the gun, but like they were already working on Doctor Strange, so they were definitely flexing their muscles in terms of what was available to them in terms of CGI, because Doctor Strange was on acid. We'll get there.
I think Ragnarok was the most flexiest of the Marvel movies.
For sure.
Again, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get there. But it's like for Ant-Man, it's like I definitely feel that was like a lot of the visual effects guys and like all the special effects guys were like, holy crap, we have a lot to do in terms of like what's to come. So we have to start to do these like out of the box style things. So
yeah.
It's like, and again, it's like Ant-Man was great. Like Paul Rudd's funny. He really is. He has really good one-liners. The little girl they casted as his daughter was great. She is probably the highlight of that film to me, outside of Michael Douglas talking smack and Richard Pena. I forgot about him.
Michael Pena.
Whatever it is. The guy where you could deliberately see that it was Edgar Wright who was like, this is what's going to happen.
Like those like rapid fire story sections of Ant-Man.
Those
were Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
And they are so obviously Edgar Wright.
And they're so funny. Like, that's easily one of the highlights of Ant-Man.
It's exactly why I
Crazy
wish
Stupefying.
they let him go through the whole movie.
Agreed. I would love it too. Crazy Stupefying, right?
Edgar Wright is one of the most criminally underrated directors ever. It's so upsetting to me. He's easily one of my favorite directors of all time, if not number one.
Yeah, but that's Ant-Man as a whole, I guess. It's not necessarily bad by any means, but it's definitely not fully realized.
Yeah.
But now...
Then next is Civil War.
Avengers 2.5.
Which I'll say the same thing I said with Winter Soldier. This is a great movie that would have been better if the Russo brothers knew how to direct fucking action sequences in a superhero movie.
Let's get straight to the one that I can think of because you sent me the clip because it took me forever to realize what it was.
that shot of Black Panther doing like some like
a
pounce
chokehold
and takedown on
Bucky.
It's like, I think the total length of that clip is like 1.1 seconds, and there's 4 cuts
It's
in
terrible.
those 1.1 seconds. It's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah, and it's
It's like like how insecure with your own choreography can you be that you cut a second into 4 cuts instead of just having one fluid cut like every competent action director ever.
and it's like, and to Marvel's dismay, I'm like, they have the money. And there are guys
That's the thing.
who
Yeah, it's
can
like
do it.
it's like this is Marvel. You have the money to make good action sequences. You're just not doing it.
You're cutting corners, and it's noticeable.
Yeah, I think just like of all the bad shaky cam
moments.
Marvel movies, when Civil War is the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's parts of this movie that legitimately give me a headache.
Yeah. Again, like this movie has a lot on its plate too. It's like it's not to this point, like it's not even a Captain America movie to me. It is Avengers 2.5. It should not have been called Captain America. It should have legitimately just said Avengers Civil War. That's what it should have technically been 3 compared to Infinity War. That's my own personal statement, because I'm like, the fact that you had to tack on Captain America onto like to be like, oh, are you Team Cap? I don't know. I don't care. You should have just called it the Avengers, and then it would be even funnier. But it's like the introduction of Tom Holland as Spidey, flawless.
That was great.
Like, I remember I woke up to the day when that trailer dropped, and like I think 8 of my friends just out of nowhere were like, dude, you gotta check the trailer out. You need to. You got to. It has to happen. And I'm like, all right, okay, fine. Watch the trailer, and I was at the very end when they call him Under Ruse, and he takes the shield, and it's, hey everyone, I dropped my phone. I was like, oh my, they got him back. It's like they got him back. Stoked. It's like the fact that, so we already bashed the directors enough, I feel. Now we're gonna go and look at this in terms of the seeds of the MCU and like the greater effects that have come with Civil War. Black Panther gets an appearance. Chadwick Boseman appears, and it's amazing. He's flawless as T'Challa. You got Tom Holland's first appearance as Spider-Man, and you realize that Marvel knows how to make a Spider-Man. He's not even the main character. You can see that, oh, he doesn't need to have all that screen time to be funny. You have great just monologues and conversations between all of the Avengers in terms of what's happened in the past. The like backstory of Bucky actually is kind of intriguing. Like I actually really dig his time in Russia. Zemo is kind of underutilized. I didn't think his drive for wanting the Avengers to break was really there.
Yeah.
Some of the fight scenes were pretty dope. Like that airport fight scene still goes down as probably one of my favorites, just because like everybody has just enough time to shine and no one really feels overshadowed by someone else. It's all kind of there. I mean, I just can't get over Black Panther in that movie, really. Like he to me just
Black Panther stole that
movie. He just freaking appeared, and you're just like,
Black Panther and Spider-Man stole that movie.
The 2 random characters that have yet to even be introduced takes over the Civil War. The end. What else was there in terms of this film? The fact that Thor isn't even mentioned outside of Ross being like, where's Hulk and where's Banner and Thor? Again, and this, man, it's only been an hour and 30 minutes since we talked about Ross. Yeah, we finally got to where Ross reappears 8 years later.
8 years later.
They brought back Ross. I do like the fact that they did drop Pepper Potts' name in Civil War in terms of the very beginning when Stark gives him all the money and he's like, oh, have fun and change the world. And they're like, and introducing Pepper Potts, and he was like, oh, no. And everyone's like, oh, crap, I'm so sorry that Pepper Potts got brought into this. It's like, at least that was the first mention of her since Iron Man 3, people. That was the first mention of Pepper.
Yeah.
That's how long ago
no,
it
it's
was.
Not.
When else was it?
She was mentioned in Ultron.
Oh, that's right. When they ask about when they're doing a pissing contest with one another. Let's see. Civil War. The fact that
I just don't feel like there's a lot to say about Civil War, honestly, which is weird considering that it was such like a big movie.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's a lot to say about it, you know? It's like they all come together, they all get pissy with each other, Cap and Iron Man fight, and then at the end of the movie everything is kind of just
broken.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like okay but not. And again, Black Panther and Spider-Man just steal it.
I think just my only issue with Civil War was, aside from the terrible action sequences, the fact that no one died.
Yeah.
And just the fact that in the grand scheme of things, nothing really changed at the end of Civil War.
It's like you kind of have like the Secret Avengers to some extent that now is gonna be bleeding into next week with Infinity War, where it's like you don't know where the Falcon is, you don't know where Wanda is, you don't know where Ant-Man is. You don't know where Hawkeye is. You just kind of know that, like, at the end of Civil War, he breaks them out and he gives Tony a phone and he's like, when you need me, I got your back. So I'm like, so the Civil War, like, don't get me wrong, I love seeing them beat the crap out of each other, but it was still kind of like a one-off, where it was like, it was there because it was in the comics. And how they handled it compared to, like, the comic book arc of Civil War is just an absolute clusterfuck. It really is.
Yeah.
Comic version of Civil War is absolutely brutal, and it's like there's so many working parts in the comic book, and like the way that they made it flow into the MCU worked. It did, but it was just like it was there, it happened, and then they just kind of like I guess we kind of have to just kind of wait and see till Infinity War to like see how everybody clashes with one another. But at the end, it still, like you said, it still feels like it's more of the same. They're just kind of whatever with one another. So maybe in Infinity War after we see everything.
Yeah. After Civil War was Doctor Strange.
Yeah, it was strange.
I'm kind of just indifferent on this movie. I feel like there's two groups of people who saw this movie. There's the people who loved it, and the people who are kind of just like, eh. And I'm in the second group. I was kind of just like, eh, all right. It was another Marvel movie, and the special effects team had fun.
Again, it was like flexing the muscles. They had to get prepared for this with Ant-Man. There's a bunch of stupid arguments I've heard when it came to Doctor Strange. Like, people were like, they're whitewashing the cultures and all of this BS. It wasn't whitewashed. They just had to do what they had to do. But it was just like, I just felt it was just them kind of getting high on acid and saying, here's a bunch of colors. Let's have them throw around to the world a few times. Yeah, that's how I felt too.
I was like, you're going to have crazies. I went in expecting crazy special effects and great performances from Benedict Cumberbatch and Tilda Swinton. And I'm a huge Tilda Swinton fan. I love her. Mm-hmm. And I was just kind of underwhelmed by all three of those.
Yeah, it was definitely just like I remember that someone was saying it was like Doctor Strange is supposed to be like the Iron Man of mystic arts in terms of the MCU, where it's like it's the first time you see it, and it's supposed to be all learning and this and that, and it's like, it's like there's funny moments, and it's like, and Benedict did good for what was given. He really did. Wasn't necessarily great again, but it was there. Some of the action sequences were pretty cool. I do like the moments where you see like all these different New York horizons. Like, that shot was cool. But it's like, honestly, I'm not a fan of Doctor Strange, even though everyone's like, that's because you don't like him in Sherlock or whatever. I'm like, I just don't really like Doctor Strange to begin with. Even in the comics, I don't like him. I'm like, it's not Benedict's fault. I'm like, casting was great. The fact that got him was crazy. Like, holy crap, it's Benedict Cumberbatch, the second highest paid actor in all of the MCU, who's done, 2 films and a half. God, that guy gets way too much money. that's I guess Doctor Strange in a nutshell.
I guess that's it. Yeah.
Oh wait. Can we go back a few steps? For people who don't know who Dormammu is, he's stronger than Thanos. Don't go thinking otherwise. And they took him one movie to introduce him, and they just kind of like swept him under the table. Take that in the count that we've waited 10 years for Thanos, but they were just like, Dormammu is a thing, even though Dormammu is like the epitome of like Trigon in DC standings. It's like Dormammu and Trigon are like the same thing on the same pedestal. And Thanos is like right beneath Dormammu, and they were just like, Dormammu can't handle time. Shoo shoo. It's like
that was like total. We needed another character for this movie.
Pretty much, like it really was.
It's like we need another character for this Marvel movie. Throw a dart at the unused comic character dartboard.
Hey, there's Dormammu. Who does he
there
with?
He is.
Who does he go with? Oh, Doctor Strange. Okay, let's do that one.
All right, script writers, do your work, because we don't know.
Exactly, but that's Doctor Strange. Those who like it, more power to you, man. I'm happy that it was made if you like it, and like, don't get me wrong, there's some cool shit in it, but again, it is what it is. Doctor Strange into Guardians?
Guardians 2, yes.
Yeah, Volume 2. Still that soundtrack, man. That opening intro.
I love this movie so much.
So good.
It was one of those movies that I watched it the first time, and I was like, oh, that was really good. I really like it, but I still like the first one more. But after rewatching Guardians 2, honestly, I think this one is my favorite of the two.
Like, the thing I've heard so many people complain about, it's like, but there's no, like, significant consequences in it. And I'm like, you could point that out in every single Marvel movie that there's no significant consequences. I'm like, it's a movie about fucking self-discovery. I'm like, the team had to figure out how to be a team. I'm like, it's the first time the MCU ever had a continuity error. Ever. Because for those who don't know, Kevin Feige has said that each movie has come out with the year that it was supposed to be corresponding in terms of release date. So in terms of MCU in 2008 was when Tony Stark said, I am Iron Man. And then in 2012, that was when the Chitauri attacked. So in 2014, that was when Guardians happened. And then, 3 years later, you have Volume 2. Volume 2 of Guardians is supposed to be 3 or 4 months after the first Guardians. They're not supposed to be a team for 3 years, and then this happens. It was supposed to be like they handled-ish on Xandar, and then they got hired to do this thing with the Sovereign, and then they came across Ego. That was like the biggest issue in terms of people who don't know. Like, it's supposed to be a 3-month gap between Guardians and Guardians Volume 2. For those who don't know, because you're uneducated swine.
Jesus.
But like, I've heard so many people bitch about it in terms of that regard. I'm just like, you guys just... I get it. I really do.
It's really not that big of a deal.
It's not, but everyone freaks out about it. And I'm just like, just calm down because you're making me pissed off because you're stupid. People make me angry.
Yikes.
And I deal with a lot of them. But it's like, it's not a bad film. It really isn't. It's like, it's just as much... It's like,
I love this movie.
It's fucking hilarious.
It's really funny. It's got great action. It has really great writing. Soundtrack is perfect.
Yep. Drax is still Drax.
You just learn more about the characters. It's more about all of them instead of just a handful of them or just a couple of them.
And it's like you actually learn who Peter is. You have a little bit of a moment with Gamora and Nebula, even though I've heard a bunch of people, I don't care about Gamora and Nebula. I don't really care that they were sisters. And I'm like, well, tough shit, because that's what they went with. And I'm like, so obviously in Infinity War, when they're fighting their stepdad, you're not going to care either. It's like there's seeds sown in every Marvel movie leading to Infinity War. And this one, honestly, has some of the biggest seeds because Gamora was raised by this son of a bitch. People forget about it. Comics, why are you ruining my life? But it's like there's so many good moments in it. It's like they make fun of the fact that Bradley Cooper is a triangle-faced monkey.
Yeah, I mean, it's not... I don't know if it's just because I'm tired or what, but I don't have a whole lot to say about Guardians the same way I didn't have a whole lot to say about it. Civil War. It's just a really good movie.
It's just good, and people who bitch about it, honestly, are just the fact that
I wasn't even aware that a lot of people bitched about it until you brought this up just now.
There's a few.
Are there a lot of people?
Yeah, being that I worked at Disney when it dropped, so many people, oh, it doesn't do anything for me, man. It just doesn't feel like it has any weight. And I'm like, so many Marvel films don't feel like they have any weight. But it's like, to me, I'm just like, just let it happen, let it be. It's supposed to be a little one-off thing, and I'm like, and it's kind of cool that they were able to get the cast they did.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you got this returning cast. They added Palmfield as Mantis. You got Kurt Russell as Ego. Yondu finally has a bit of a spotlight. You got some funny writing moments. Even though I will say, okay, here's probably like one of the moments I did say I do feel was unnecessarily long, and that's when Groot is trying to find the Finn. I feel they had a little too much time dictated towards him running around.
Long. Yeah.
But outside of that, it's like
I'll agree with that.
Like that's the only thing I could really look at and be like, yeah, I can see why that is a little bit of a kerfuffle. But I'm like, you got Sylvester Stallone in this. What the hell? Like, they got everybody. It's like everything in the kitchen sink got thrown into this. And it's like, it's not supposed to be this, like, conflicting thing like with the Avengers where they're, oh, I don't trust you. We can't trust people. It's like, no, we're just a family in space doing shit. Guardians. Booyah. Fuck off. Next
was
Homecoming.
Homecoming.
For all y'all sons of bitches who don't know about our first episode ever of TNR, we got a lot to say, and I'm thinking we're probably going to get into a decent little thing about Spooderman and all the different iterations of him here. But if you want to hear all of our
I won't say a whole much because we already.
Again, if you want to hear our thoughts on Spider-Man as a whole,
we've already done 2 whole episodes of TNR on Spider-Man. It's over on the original Joe from Seattle channel.
Yeah, it's there.
But we've already done like an hour and a half worth of talking about Spider-Man and Sony in general.
Yep.
And just their management of Spider-Man. But in short, Homecoming I think is the second best Spider-Man movie behind Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
And I think it's really, really great to have Marvel back at the helm until Sony pulls a Sony and takes the helm away from them again and fucks everything again. What? Sounded like something really stupid came out of your mouth.
Maybe it did. It's supposed to come up in a few months.
Shit, dude. Oh my god.
Right?
Venom is gonna shit the bed so bad.
So hard. But it's like Homecoming. You got the quippy, funny Spider-Man who's also incredibly awkward as a Peter Parker. You got the absolute fucking show stealer of Michael Keaton as a villain who just went from Birdman into Vulture. That was magical. He was Batman fighting Spider-Man. It was dope. There's so many things you can say about Michael Keaton in this movie. The suit looks rad. The fact they took it away from him. Tony Stark plays a good role in it. Action sequences were rad. You had a lot of moments where Spider-Man was Spider-Man. You had a lot of moments where Peter Parker just didn't know what the fuck to do. Zendaya just was hilarious in terms of how much of a bitch she was. It was great. I loved her. The fact that she flipped him off when he went to a dance was great. The addition of Ned as a character was great. Homecoming. Honestly, like 10 out of 10 in terms of Spider-Man. Check it out if you haven't. It's like if there's any movie character that can pull people in from not really knowing anything about the MCU, it's definitely Spider-Man. There's a reason why Sony has it close to its chest, because Spider-Man sells.
Yeah.
Now, we've made it, sir. We are on fucking movie 8. No, shit. Damn it, I'm off. Fucking Panther and Ragnarok. Damn it. I was all excited I could talk about Black Panther, and I forgot about Ragnarok.
No, we're on Ragnarok.
Even though I love this film, it's one of my favorites, really, and I know this is going to be a good little scuffle between us, because I know your thoughts and you know my thoughts, but Let's hash it out. Start with yours.
I think this movie is a whole bunch of CGI garbage. I think it's it reminds me of the Star Wars prequels in both the writing and the reliance on special effects and green screens. And the whole thing feels unnecessary.
And I defer from this because for me, it's in my top 5 for Marvel films. Some people might disagree, being Joe. But my reason behind it is it was finally a bunch of people were bitching about it in terms of its first initial trailer because they're like, it feels too much like the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I don't want another Guardians. And I'm like, why don't you want more Guardians? Guardians knows what's up. They know how to make funny. They know how to make, honestly, good-sized spectacles with how much CGI there is in Guardians. That's not to say that it felt kind of soupy in Thor, because it kind of did. But in terms of it all, it's like it was a necessary thing for Thor because Thor was locked in mysticism for 2 whole movies. So the fact that they were able to make him funny again and actually have him crack jokes, and the fact that they finally made Hulk a character rather than just an entity was kind of nice to me. Because I didn't like how Hulk in comics always could kind of talk. But in MCU up until this point, it was just Banner saying like, ah, shit, now I gotta fight. So the fact that Hulk finally got some character building moments as the Hulk, not as Banner, was nice to me. I loved that element of it. Jeff Goldblum was... fucking Jeff Goldblum. It's great. The fact they even got him in the movie was great. Tom Hiddleston, again, he's probably one of the highlights of all Thor and all of MCU at this point. Chris Hemsworth, to me, I was happy that they were finally able to make him funny. And honestly, I think that was probably my favorite Stan Lee cameo in a long time was in Ragnarok, where he was a random dude with a giant pair of scissors for hands. But, like, the thing about Thor for me is, like, it was so needed. Even though Joe, I can agree with in terms of, like, it's very CGI, like, reliant and green screened.
Yeah, I mean,
but I feel I
think I was just expecting something a lot better than
what was given.
Mediocre, yeah.
Yeah.
In my opinion, at least.
But at the same time, it's like I could kind of see it too. I feel when it comes to like that, I feel Taika Waititi kind of played it very. I honestly think he played it kind of close to his chest. I really did. I feel he didn't want to go too far in the indie route of movie directing, just because it was probably his most expensive movie he's ever directed. So he played it kind of safe, which kind of sucks because I've watched a few of the films he's actually done outside of Thor, and he's a damn good director. So I kind of wish he went more ballsy with that regard. So hopefully they take him back and he does more in terms of other things, because he's really rad when he actually goes down his path. I feel he's he's more of a James Gunn type, but he played it safe because he just wasn't used to a budget that he was in. That's one in terms of seeds sown, though. Mjolnir's gone. Thor and Asgard blown the hell up. Crap, I forgot to even talk about Hela. She was great. Hela's probably one of my highlights of that film, honestly. I loved the fact that they casted the way they did for her.
Yeah.
She was flawless. But now it's like it ties together very well in terms of Thanos' appearance, because the ship shows up and he blows up the Asgardian ship. So that's kind of where Infinity War, I feel, is going to pick up. It's going to be Thor floating through space and the Guardians finding him.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of Thor, it's just like, I like it. I really do, just because for me, I like more comedic styles of things. And in terms of Thor especially, it just felt like it was something needed compared to, he's a god, look at him go. All right.
That's fair.
Now, you finally did it. Now that my mouth is finally as good as your 5-word count of Groot. Black Panther.
Black Panther, last one.
Last one until Infinity War. I fucking love this movie. Even though
I think it's we let you know, we let the politics get a little too ahead of ourselves in terms of the critical scores. Because I don't think this movie is like deserving of all the scores and the praise it got, but that doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It's still a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's
definitely the element of everyone's trying to like be like, oh, it's because it's all black. I want you to find that clip you sent me on Twitter of that one dude ranting. This is the first black hero. Where was you when Blade came out? But really though, everyone's talking crap about how this being the first freaking black-led superhero film. Go check out Blade. Talk to me later. It's like, don't get me wrong. It's like, it's about damn time in terms of like the scope of it all.
It's about damn time.
It's like it's like the scope that Black Panther had in terms of everything was so needed. And I've had so many moments where people were like, you can't be excited for Black Panther because you're a white guy. And I'm just like, if you really want to play this card on me in terms of I can't be excited for Black Panther, you, sir, cannot be excited for Cap or Iron Man or Guardians or Strange or Spider-Man or any of the other characters that have come before him, because you're playing the race card saying, I can't be excited for Black Panther because I'm white and you're black.
Yeah,
and,
but
like,
at the same time, you just listed off like every Marvel protagonist because they're all white people.
Exactly.
So that's what makes this important.
Again, I totally agree with that, but I just don't like how some people were like, no one can be as excited as them, even though I'm like, why not? Why can't we? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm like, it's definitely more like politically standing than honestly I feel it should, but that's not to say that it's not unneeded. It's definitely needed. I'm all for the element of Black Panther doing what it did, because what it did was fucking great. It really was. Mm-hmm. But again, like you said, the politics of it all just kind of like has overshadowed it, where everyone has to be jumping onto it because, you know, it's a fully black-led cast outside of Andy Serkis and Bilbo. They're the only white guys in the entire film. That's crazy. It's a necessary step, but it's like, but just let everybody enjoy it with everybody. It's like, I think I've seen interviews with all of the cast, and each and every one of them is just like, it's meant to be enjoyed by everyone. The cast never let it get to their head the fact that they're doing what they did.
Yeah.
Even though, in terms of it all, like now looking probably in the rearview mirror, I have no doubt in my mind Chadwick Boseman's like, holy shit, that's a big deal. Like, Black Panther was huge because of this, but at the same time, when they were filming it, it was just, they had to do it. They were like, we signed on for a film, do the best we can, and that's what happened. And in terms of it all, it's like, the portrayal of Wakanda was so good. I think one of my favorite shots in that entire film is when he just says, this never gets old, and they fly through the freaking trees, and you just see Wakanda. I about lose it every time. I'm like, it's such a great scene. The music of this movie is flawless, too. Not in terms of the soundtrack, by, like, Kendrick Lamar standards. I'm talking, like, actual score that is played in the film. I bought that album. I don't buy many scores in terms of Marvel. I bought Black Panthers because it was that damn good. Killmonger was fucking flawless. Michael B. Jordan, oh my god, so good. It's like the fact that this movie was able to make a villain be a villain but not a villain was what kind of stood out to me. It wasn't really like he's bad for the sake of being bad because it needs to happen. He was radicalized in regards to the fact that there's just racial injustices. It's true. It's legit. It's real. That's what it is like in the real world, and it's honestly uncalled for. But it was an organically grown thing in him. It wasn't just, I want to take over the world and Wakanda has all my stuff. It's like, we have the ability to make things the way we want, but we don't. Because if we do, it's bad. Because it's through force rather than the right way.
Mm-hmm.
But everything about this film, like, there's still some bits and pieces. Like, I feel at the end, it's very much the fight is two Power Rangers for me between Killmonger and T'Challa, of them going at it. I'm like, the moment he felt like he was just untouchable too much, even though it's like I get he has heightened reflexes being, the heart-shaped herb and all that. But the moment that Shuri gave him the suit that like materializes, I'm like, I get he has a vibranium suit on most of the time. But it's like it's still to the point where it's like if someone were to get him into a chokehold, he could still die. If someone were to be able to like get him in, like, they could break a bone of his. They could. He got stabbed. He even got stabbed, dude. It's like he can get messed up. I get it, and I wish there was more of that between him and Killmonger. It's like honestly, at the end of the fight, when he was like turn on the trains because then the vibranium gets turned off in the suits, I thought for sure the trains just wouldn't keep coming, and I would have loved to see Killmonger and T'Challa just go into a fist fight, like Creed style, because that's what Ryan Coogler directed, for y'all who don't know. It's like I would love to see them just have gone into like a full-fledged like bare knuckle brawl in these suits, but it's like the suits aren't doing anything. It's just them. That's what would have made me love that fight compared to me being like, it just felt like Power Rangers. They were like, ooh, I built up energy. Pew! Everything flies away from me now. Cool, I guess it works, but still, it felt like Power Rangers. Like, that's honestly my biggest issue with the film, is just I felt the suit was a little too much in regards to what it looks like, as well as what it gave to the story. Not to say it's a bad movie, though. I loved everything else about it. I really did. It's easily in my top 5. Easily. I think I've seen it 8 times in the theaters.
Jeez.
Movie Pass, son. Movie Pass. So good. Your thoughts, being I've now probably taken most of this time.
I mean, I think it's a fine movie.
Where are your faults? Because you have a little more, I feel, than I do.
I mean, I think the CGI in certain points is awful, and I think the writing at certain points is really bad. Mainly in, like, the comedic parts. I think the comedy of Black Panther is just very...
Oh, the sneakers.
Bad. Yeah.
Yeah. Sneakers part was unnecessary.
And then also, my biggest problem with the movie, I think, was just the fact that they didn't really characterize T'Challa very much. And I also wasn't a fan of the fact that every time T'Challa's not in the suit, he gets his ass beat. It just made me feel like this. It made part of making a good superhero movie is making me care about the person in the suit. And Black Panther honestly made me do the opposite, because all that movie did was prove that T'Challa kind of needs the suit to be viable.
Even though I will say, in terms of the casino brawl, when he didn't have the suit on because he didn't have it on, that was a pretty decent little scrap for him not being in the suit, showing he can still do stuff.
Yeah.
And the shots in terms of the waterfall fights against Killmonger and what's his name? Oh gosh. The Jabari, what's his name? Damn it, what's his name? He's one of my favorite characters too. I can't think of his name. M'Baku, that's what it is. Like, in that moment when each time they're like, he's going to get the Black Panther powers stripped away, like, that worked for me, because I'm like, okay, like, he's just back to being a normal dude now. That worked. But it's like, in those moments too, it's like, I kind of felt for him, because I'm like, he doesn't have the powers, but it's like, and he can still kind of, you can see there is some grit to him wanting to win. But one thing I will say too is, being I rewatched it just recently, I legit saw it on Tuesday. A buddy of mine from my work hadn't seen it yet, so we went and saw it. And there's a line that I caught, and I caught like a moment where the line actually played a bigger role, and it makes me really enjoy the film more. And it's the line when he's on the ancestral plane. And again, also side note, the ancestral plane bits are beautiful. They really are. But it's when he's talking to T'Chaka, and he said, how do I be a good king? And he's like, you will struggle because you have a good heart. And it's hard for a good man to be king. And that line stuck with me in this showing, because when he fights Killmonger for Wakanda, he could have won. T'Challa had the ability to win, because he trips him. He could have tripped him and gone straight for the killing blow and, like, got him right in the throat. He had the ability to. But then he said to yield instead because he didn't want to kill him. And it just kind of stuck with the element of his T'Chaka saying, you have a good heart, and it's going to ultimately bite him in the ass, and it did in one single film. So it's like another reason why I love the film so much is it's because it shows him actually, like, learn the hard way that you do have to make very hard decisions. And it's like they draw a connection between T'Chaka and T'Challa in regards to having to, one, T'Chaka killing Njobu, and then him killing Killmonger, or as his name is, N'Jadaka. So it's like he has to mirror his dad in regards to, like, killing the radical side of that family. And it made me enjoy the film so much more because family. So Black Panther for me, man, still damn good movie. Slight discrepancies and some things where I am a little on, but still damn good movie. I don't think it's necessarily going to get as many awards as people think it's going to get. It's going to get some, though, for sure. Yeah. I remember people were thinking it was going to get like greatest film of the year and stuff like that, even though a bunch of people were trying to say that was going to happen to Wonder Woman, and I'm like, it's just because it's a women-led and it's a woman director. Don't let that happen to Black Panther, even though it already did. The thing I will say Black Panther most likely will get an award for is going to be the costume department. Costumes in Black Panther were beautiful.
And the cinematography.
Mm-hmm. Cinematography was great. Certain fight shots in the waterfall were flawless. The single shot in the casino brawl, I want to see how they film that one. I'm stoked to get Black Panther on DVD in May and watch some of how the things they filmed, because that is they did one continuous shot in the casino from Okoye through T'Challa running into Claw at the top. That was one single shot, and I want to see how they filmed that because that was cool. So, like, there's some great moments and there's some not so great moments, but as you've noticed from our entire rant, we have our issues with the MCU, even though we still love it. So,
yeah.
And stay tuned. We do plan on doing a full-fledged. Are we gonna do spoilers for Infinity War? Or are we going to try to keep it?
The Infinity War review will be up on Friday. We're both going to see it Thursday night. And we'll do the review for Friday. We'll do it. When we do it, we'll do a non-spoiler section, and then we'll save the spoilers for the second half.
Got it.
So we'll get both, just a straight-up review, no spoilers, and then a spoiler discussion.
Yeah, just in terms of all the various goodies that are going to be drawn to light. But we definitely will do a more of a outward looking in terms of just as a whole.
Yes, I'm excited.
Dude, this movie, to break all movies until next May, because all y'all who don't know too, before we end this, they already finished filming Avengers 4. It is done. It is in post-production. And it's still as tight-lipped as it is. And to that, Marvel, I applaud you.
Yeah.
But that's the MCU in terms of a TNR. Got some hits, got some misses. So, still Marvel fans.
Thanks if you listened all the way through, almost 2 hours.
Yeah. If not,
GG's to you.
We'll I would say honestly, if you can, for whoever does listen to this, if you get to this point, damn, I should have put this at the beginning. Do it in parts, maybe.
Yeah.
You should put something in at the video and say, listen to Wyatt. Like, or just edit me in the very beginning. Listen to this in parts if you can. But yeah, that's the MCU. We're stoked. We'll do a review soon. Whenever Friday morning.
Yeah, Friday. Friday afternoon we'll have a review up of Infinity War.
And I mean, if you like listening to us bitch and complain, keep on keeping on. We're gonna try to make this more consistent. We missed a week because Joe here lost his voice for some reason. I honestly don't know why, but he did.
So we missed a week. As shit, dude. I had strep throat.
I was thinking I didn't know if it was strep throat or what, but you were just like, I lost my voice, and I was like, all right. So if we miss a week, it's going to be down to like either he loses a voice or it just doesn't line up well. But we do try to make this a weekly thing, and if it keeps growing, which I don't know if it will or not, but if it does, we'll try to do more. If you like us and you think so, send us around. Try to get TNR going. We love ranting. It happens naturally.
All right.
But yeah,
Thanks for
MCU.